Hello, my friends, and welcome back to Learning Torah Lishma. Baruch Hashem, thank God that we got some substance, a certain level of depth when it comes to someone trying to get married. And I think we really hit something. We started to understand Hashem a little bit. You know, a lot of the system today is because people didn't understand God. People, they were afraid to do what God says because they didn't understand it, and therefore they created their own ideas. And then later on in their life, a generation later, they're already saying that that's the Torah. The beauty of the Torah is that we have a tradition spanning back thousands of years, and we have written documents, so we're able to, when a falsehood is created, we have the ability to figure out that it's false. Because we could say it contradicts the Chumash, it contradicts the Mishnah, it contradicts the Gemara. You understand? It contradicts the Chayvus Halavavas. And therefore we could know that it's false. We have there's no religion and there's no cult, there's no country in the world that has anywhere close to the amount of religious Jewish psychology books, Jewish ideology books. It's just tremendous. There is so much. And therefore, the tzaddikim of old, they protect and save us. And they did all that in such dire situations that we can't even imagine what they went through. And they did it all. Just absolutely astonishing. It boggles the mind. How did they do it? And how do we mess up so big, right? Right? Absolutely boggles the mind. So Baruch Hashem, we got to a certain depth. People are starting to understand, first of all, what is God, what isn't God, what are people's ideas, what is the will of God, and then what is the will that people are trying to say is the will of God, but it's not. We're starting to understand the difference. We're starting to understand a bit what is a true Torah scholar. You understand? What is a true Talmid chacham? Is it because he took what's that called? So whatever. There's like this college place. I don't know. Mizrahi talks about it, that they college rabbis. That I'm not talking about people that go to colleges, to rabbis that go to college to help people. I'm talking about that they get like they do their diplomacy of being a posek or a rabbi in college, and they wear those hats. And we're not talking about those, I think that's a bit funny, but Mizrahi has a bit harsher words, and he knows what he's talking about. That's not, and that's, when we say that we're starting to get a feel for a real Talmid chacham, right, we know it's not that. We wish them the best, but we know that's not the caver, that's not the the tomb that you're going to praying for God's salvation. You're going to Chaim Kanievsky, you're going to the Satmar Rebbe, you're going to Ravadi Yosef's kever. That's where you're going. Right? We all know when we really need help, we know who are the really righteous people. At the same time, we're starting to understand a bit. Just because a person knows how to read a Gemara and has a fantastic memory, and even if he worked hard, that doesn't make them a Talmid chacham. That there's big potential there, and we hope that they finish the journey, absolutely, but that doesn't make them a Talmid chacham. What makes someone a Talmid chacham is, of course, a lot of knowledge of God. You understand? Knowing His Torah. Of course, you have to know a lot, because without knowing, you can't really, in order to really serve God in all its glory and to help others, you gotta learn. If he put books here, he put big tzaddikim here that bring out the wisdom of God. That's what Hashem put it here on this world. God put it here on this world. Right? You got to get into it. You understand? But we know, but we're starting to understand that just because someone knows how to read a Gemara doesn't mean he has the right to control my life. It doesn't mean that he's a leader just because he knows how to read Taisvis. It's when someone is learning, when someone is working on his midas. When I say learning, I mean learning Torah, learning the Torah. When someone's working on his midas, when he has this endless drive to not deviate from the will of God. And he could be 99 years old and 364 days old. With 364 days. And if he realizes that there's something that he got wrong his whole life, a certain aspect, or something could be tweaked, he doesn't think of his honor, his glory. Immediately on the deathbed, he comes and says, quickly, I want to make a video, and this, because he's not going to live too much longer. He sees that he's going. He's on his deathbed. He says, quickly, I want Adim to be here, witnesses to what I'm saying. I want you to take a video, and I want to correct this thing. This that I taught the tzibur, that I taught the community, was wrong. I want to correct it. That's a real Talmid chacham. Someone who's moida al ha'emes, like we say in Shachris. Not everybody says it, but moida al ha'emes. That's a real tzaddik. A real tzaddik is someone that all he's thinking is Elikus. All he's thinking is God. I am nothing. God is everything. My whole life is just to cling to God, not to cling to my honor, my ego, and all these other bad character traits. No. The level of a real tzaddik is how much he's clinging to God, and he becomes batul u'mevutel in God. He becomes batul b'shishim. He becomes nullified in God. My will is God's will. And there's something amazing that happens there. When you make your will God's will, then God makes his will your will. What does that mean? God now gives you the ability to help people in miraculous ways. That's also when, the teachings of the Baal Shem Tov, the Misnagdim would make fun many times of the fact that in the Chasidus, the fact that the tzaddik, that the righteous man could do miracles for people, the Misnagdim would, so first of all, by Hasidim, that was looked at something big, that was important. It didn't mean you couldn't be a tzaddik without it, but that showed that you were a different level tzaddik. You were someone that I could die for, I could just trust without question, I could just follow. Why was that? And the Misnagdim, they would make fun of that. They would say, oh, you're looking is for miracles, right? What about the halacha? What about this? Of course, they both go together, obviously. But that's what they would say. But it's clear from the Baal Shem Tov that Chasidus does not ignore the fact, if you have two tzaddikim, right? They're both big tzaddikim, you understand? When you go to them for a halacha question, they know the answers. They know how to help you with your family, and all these different things. They knew, you understood? But one when he prays for you, there's a high chance that a miracle is going to happen. And when the other one prays for you, not necessarily will a miracle happen. Bikoshi, in great difficulty, will a miracle happen. By Hasidim, you follow the first tzaddik. By Misnagdim, they don't see that as a differentiator. At least that's what they claim. In actual practice, if they see someone that is like this and like this, that is Ashkenaz like them, then they'll make that differentiation. But if it's an Ashkenaz against a Hasidic Rebbe, and the Rebbe's doing miracles, and the Ashkenazi, big tzaddik isn't, they're going to look at him more than the Hasidic Rebbe. And Hasidus says that if you what it seems to you that these two tzaddikim are equal, and one of them could perform miracles and one can't, then you follow the one that could do miracles. This aspect of miracles, why is it? Why in Hasidus did they? Do they say that? You understand? So everybody can say, well, it's obvious, you understand? But I want to understand it in the depth. The reason is because Hashem says, when you make your will my will, asay ritzaynecha kirtzaynai kidei sheyasa kirtzaynai kirtzaynecha, like it says in Pirkei Avos. You make that your will is God's will. You make yourself nullify to God. You maximize the abilities that He gave you. And do the service of God. Then God tries in any way that He can to give you the power to help people. Whether it's miracles, whether it's this or that, He tries to do everything for you to help you do good for others, do good for your family, to do good for yourself. The reason why the Baal Shem Tov teaches that there's a difference between a tzaddik that could do a nes, that could do a miracle, and a tzaddik that can't. The reason why there's a difference is it shows the one that could do the miracle. It shows that he's really connected to God. He's not full of ego, always thinking about what will happen to me if I say this, if I do this, before before thinking what does God want. He first thinks about himself. That type of tzaddik is light years behind the tzaddik that says, my will is God's will. My ego is only used to be kanoi la Hashem, to be a zealotin for God. That's what I use my ego for. My ego is I'm egoistic for God. I'm not going to allow someone just to say God doesn't exist. I'm going to speak up against that. I'm not allowing someone to just say that the Torah is not true. I'm going to speak up about that. I'm not allowing someone to give false ideologies of the Torah and claim that that's the Torah and not say anything because I'm afraid of the backlash of what people are going to do to me emotionally, financially, physically. No, I'm going to stand up for God no matter what happens to me. That's a real servant of God. That is a real child of God. And that's my leader. Wow. Wow. This is so important. So important, these nekudas. May we take them in. May we let it affect our mind. Let it affect our heart. Let the truth flow through us. And may we see the blessing of God in our lives, in all our endeavors, and may we be a blessing to others. I love you, and Hashem loves you more.